Hi, welcome. Today I'd like to share with you a sport. No, wait, come back. I know I said the S word, just give it a chance, please. But it's a sport that I really enjoy, and I hope I can convince you maybe to try it out. People, on average, tend to think that fencing is a graceful and elegant sport for the primarily wealthy. But that's not the case. And hopefully I can demystify it here and show that fencing is a sport for everybody, in all honesty. And it is, in my opinion, just as much of a physical challenge as it is a mental challenge, testing both your body and your mind to make plans and split-second decisions and then execute upon them. If you're looking to exercise but you don't want to go to the gym, I think that fencing's a brilliant alternative, which I think you should consider. Not only does it, again, like I said, physically exercise you, but it's also going to mentally exercise you as well. So, what is fencing? Or rather, how does one fence? Well, first you're going to need to choose from one of three weapons. That's foil, saber, or épée. Each can only fence against the same weapon. Foil and épée are weapons that you can only score with the tip, but saber can be scored with pretty much any part of the blade. I've fenced all three of these weapons competitively, and I've earned a rating in all three of them as well. I had a C in saber, a D in foil, and a D in épée. Don't think that I'm any good at the sport. I was mostly average at the sport, but I enjoyed them all nonetheless for what they brought to the table as individual and unique weapons. But yes, anybody can be rated in fencing. You can go for a rating as long as the tournament allows for it, and you're a member of the USA Fencing Society, which there is a due for it, but it's a yearly due, although you could pay for a lifetime membership, although I don't know anybody who's ever done that. But don't mistake it, you don't need to be a member of the USA Fencing Association in order to practice wherever you can practice. It's only more if you want to do tournaments and fence competitively. So remember when I told you to choose a weapon? Well, you've been slightly tricked. Of course, every SAL, that's where you practice fencing, is going to be different, but generally I've seen most clubs and SALs start you off in foil. There's a reason for that. In foil and in saber, there is a set of rules known as right-of-way. Right-of-way determines who is the person who gets to score at the end of a phrase being the last set of combat actions. Think about it like a turn-based RPG where one side attacks and the other side defends, and then it flips, and it keeps flipping each time each side takes a turn. And in foil and saber, each of them have a target area, which is another layer on top of right-of-way. So in order to score, you have to A, have right-of-way, and B, touch the person on the target area in order to score a point. If you don't manage to touch them on the target area, and say in foil you hit them in the leg, it becomes an off-target attack and no point is scored. In saber, you technically have the same thing, but in practice it doesn't really work out with the way that modern fencing is scored electronically. Now, in a complete contrast to that, we have épée, which is structured most closely to a duel in the fact that it has no right-of-way rules and it has no target restriction rules. However, that is not to say that the lessons you learn in foil and saber can't be applied to épée, because even with no right-of-way rules, you generally do see the back and forth innately come out in the way that it's fenced. Also, as a byproduct of not having any right-of-way rules, if both fencers hit each other at the same time, they both score a point. Oh yeah, come to think of it, how is right-of-way determined? Well, now we have to introduce the third player in fencing. This would be the bout director. The bout director's job is to be able to interpret the last phrase of action in order to adjudicate who scored what point and if they did or didn't score. On the piste, that is the area in which you fence, the bout director has complete and total final say over a call and a judgment. You can challenge the call, but generally speaking, in regular tournaments that aren't major events like the Olympics or some type of USA fencing event, challenges don't really work out. But in the end of the day, it's kind of a bad idea to argue a call with About Director, because these people have been through a lot of training to be bout directors. It's kind of ridiculous the amount of training that they have to go through, but they need to know what they're talking about, and they need to know, like, by rules, how to direct a bout. And at the end of the day, all I can say is I don't think I've ever had a bout director who I've disliked, and I've fenced for many years. I may have disagreed with some of the calls they made, both on me and against me, but in general, it's been my experience that they're good people and they just have a passion for the sport. So if any of this interests you, how can you get involved in fencing today? Well, USA Fencing has a club finder on their website, which is usafencing.org, that you can find clubs in your area. I think most of them are collegiate clubs, but I'm 100% certain that if you're not a college student and you call and ask, hey, I'm a new person trying to get into fencing, are there any fencing clubs in my area that are open to the public? They would be more than happy to share with you the information that they can. And another place in which you can locate a club near you is fencing.net. It has a club locator on their website, and from what I can tell, it's fairly solid. If you're interested in tournaments in your area or just curious about the frequency by which tournaments are offered near you, you can check out askfred.net, which on their main page should display all of the tournaments that are happening, I think, in the US, but you can narrow it down by region if you want to. In addition to that, if there is tournaments in your region, usually they come with a club attached to it, because there's got to be a place to host the event. So that could be another good way of finding a club near you that not only is open to the public, but also hosts tournaments. And to clear up the last question you might have, how much does it cost? Well, to begin fencing, it shouldn't really ever cost you that much outside of whether or not the club charges for practice fees or lesson fees. And a lot of the clubs in my area, and I think a lot of clubs in general, allow you to try at least the first practice or maybe a couple of practices for free to see if it's right for you. And generally the equipment cost is nothing as well, because if you're practicing with them, they allow you to use club equipment to practice with. Now, I can't speak for every SAL here, but in my area, a lot of the SALs also allow you to use club equipment to participate in tournaments, but that's going to be vary between what club you're at and who's running the club. But here's the wet blanket. If you really like the sport, then yes, the price tag for equipment can get a little pricey. There are a lot of rules regarding your uniform that you must wear, as well as there's specialty shoes you can get. The blades themselves cost a pretty penny, and not to mention all of the electrical gear that you're going to have. But you shouldn't let that dissuade you. I've known a lot of people and a lot of clubs who've been more than accommodating with people who are new and people who can't really purchase the equipment. And truly, at the end of the day, the community of fencing is full of people who are just passionate about the sport and want to see people share that same passion with them about the sport. Anyway, I hope this convinces you to at least try out fencing, or maybe it helped you understand a little bit more about what fencing is and, taught you something new about it. But anyway, hope you have a good one, and hopefully I'll see you on the piste. Goodbye.